Hi, my name is Eleazar Hernandez. Today, what we're going to be talking about is etiquette, in particular, email etiquette. Basically the do's, the don'ts of what should be sent, when it should be sent, everything regarding the actual email itself. Now, one of the main things that people tend to forget is when they're replying to an email is whether they reply to a specific person or are they replying to everybody that was once attached to that email. And it's very important to look and see who and what is going to be replied to. Another thing that's important is going to be introducing yourself. When you introduce yourself on an email, you let the person know that's receiving the email who it's being sent from, what company you're working for. Basically, just being polite, just in case sometimes they don't know, that makes them aware. One of the main things that some people sometimes do, which could be a bad habit, would be email angrily. You don't want to email angrily simply because at the spur of the moment you could be saying things that you might regret, that you might not like. Now, one of the things with email is that it can be sent to everybody. So, being careful of what you send and who you send it to is a big reason to be confidential with the types of emails that you're sending and who you're sending them to. Next thing would be replying to the emails in a timely fashion. Um, you always want to make sure that you reply to the emails, of course, as fast as you can, especially when it's an important email. Sometimes it's somebody waiting for a response for maybe it could be a house purchase, a loan purchase, different things of that type. What you want to refrain from is saying, replying any sort of like one liner email replies, basically saying yes or no to any of the emails. You want to make sure you write in full sentences, basically. Now, another thing that you want to avoid is using bad language in the email, including any curse words or even just bad sentences. You want to make sure you write in complete sentences. Make sure you don't use any curse words. Make sure that you have everything etiquette as possible because you never know who the email might be sent to eventually. Another thing that you don't want to do, sort of like in the subject line, would be like sending so much of an email, maybe replying constantly, that it ends up being mistaken for spam, which could be very important, tying into the next slide, which makes it sure that the subject to the email is important. Make sure that you have it in line. Make sure that you have it not in all caps, simply because sometimes some of those emails in all caps or all lowercase, they're sent directly to people's spam folders. Now, another thing that some people tend to do is they send large attachments. Uh, Whenever you're going to send a large attachment, it's okay. You just want to make sure that you provide a warning, sort of like a heads up. I'm going to be sending an attachment with this email. That way, they're aware of like how big the file might be. Now, whenever you're using emails, you're constantly taking information back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes what needs to happen is that whenever there's information that can't be conveyed, you actually have to get up and call the person, which makes it a lot better. Now, on each email, and most email providers, they have a high priority email option, which lets you check the box basically to let the reader know you need to view this email immediately. You don't want to overuse it because it can come to a point where they don't take you serious anymore. Now, emails are great and all, just like calls or text messages, but what you want to make sure in the email, you don't drag on the conversation forever. You basically want to make sure you get to the point and you simplify it as fast and as much as you can within a short amount of sentences. Another thing that you want to do on your emails is include your signature. It'll actually help the reader know that you cared enough to sign and that you were actually the one that sent the email, not maybe generated a robot or maybe even like a secretary or an assistant. Now, as far as auto responding, it's important. It can be useful. You just want to make sure you're careful when you use it, such as when you're going out of town. You want to leave an auto response to let people know, hey, I'm going to be out of town. I'm not going to be in this week. Basically, that would be the only time that it would be really necessary. Whenever you're sending emails or you're having somebody send emails for you, you want to make sure that you know that if they're sending an email, that that's a reflection of who you are, or who your company is. So you would want them to be as etiquette with their emails as you would be sending them. You don't want them to sort of mess that up for you. Um, Finally, the last thing would be checking all of your emails, making sure that your spelling is on point, because it looks just very unprofessional when it's not. Actually, second to last thing, but then the last thing would be using all caps, and that's a big no-no. You don't want to use all caps when you're sending an email, because it looks basically like sometimes you're screaming. It gives a hard time to the reader to know whether you're being mean, whether you're being mad, whether you're being upset, different things like that. Thank you.